In a previous video I showed you how to create a condition controlled loop. So we used a while to check to see if a condition was true before carrying out the code within that while loop. The limitation of a while loop is that the condition must be true before it will run. So if the condition is not true, then the code is just completely ignored and it skips the while loop and carries on with the code beneath. That may be what you're trying to achieve within your program, but sometimes we know how many times we want the loop to run, and we can just tell it run it anyway. We don't care about any conditions, we just want the code to run. So in this example we have a statement that I want to display on the screen 10 times. So the command that I'm going to use is for x in range, and then in between the brackets of range we have the number of times that we want it to loop. I'll explain the rest of this line shortly, but I'll just show you what this does first. So again with this one, it ends in a colon, so anything beneath a colon needs to be indented, and then any code underneath this would be in line here. I can nest another loop inside, or I can have other types of commands inside, but it all needs to be indented if I want it to run for this number of times. So I'm going to run this, and we can see print to the screen hi 10 times. Now just to explain this line 5, the for x in range command, just in a bit more detail. So we have here a variable called x. Now this is a throwaway variable. We don't really care what it's called. I could call it for number in range, I could call it for Bob in range, for I in range. So quite often you'll see for x in range or for I in range. So for x in range 10, then it's going to print this out 10 times. Now this is a variable, so it must have a value. Let's see what that value is. So I'm going to tell my program to print whatever x is, so it should print it out 10 times, whatever it is. And when I run it, you can see that the first time it prints, x has the value 0. The second time it prints, x has the value 1. And I'll just concatenate a string to it just so you can see. And you can see it goes from 0 up to 9, right, instead of 1 to 10. So this is a 0 based loop. Now if I know which number I want it to start from, so for example if I want to start from 5, I can do 5, 10, but it will still finish one below this number. So if I wanted it to print 5 to 10, I need to change that to 11. So there we go. Now I might want the user to decide how far this loop is going to go, so I'm just going to put in a command to allow them to do that. Oop. So I'm going to ask them to enter a num, and then I'm going to say for x in range 1, comma, num, and I'm going to do +1. So whatever they type in, if they type in 10, 10 will be substituted here, +1. So this will count from 1 to 10 plus 1. Well, actually in our code it will finish at 10. So when I run this, if I type in 10, counts 1 to 10. If I type in 100, it'll count up to 100. I've just modified my code, so rather than asking for a number to be entered, I'm now asking it to enter a name. Let's just change the name of this variable to be something more sensible. So name equals input, enter a name. I'm not converting it to an integer because it will be a string value, and I cannot store a string as an integer. That would cause a syntax error. So if I run this, it will just do what it did before. So it just prints out the value of x. What I can actually get this to do now is, rather than looping through the range of 0 to 9, I can tell it to loop through the variable name. So x will now take on a value within the variable name. So when I run this and I'll press enter, it prints off each value one at a time. So I'll just show you again. Oops. You can see there, you should be able to spot the mistake I've just made. I've actually made two. So we'll get rid of that. I should have put a comma there. So run it again. Just move that out of the way. So you can see every time it loops, x takes on the value. So x equals t, x equals r, and so on. So in conclusion, a for loop should be used when you know how many times you want the code within that loop to run, and you want it to run every time, no matter what. A while loop will run while a condition is true. So there are two different types of loop that can be used for different purposes.